It's Women Rock Day. Women rock. Let me tell you how women rock and the story of how it ties into copyright laws. So, I'm going to tell you guys a story. I'm standing in front of the Shorter AME church where I actually went to church as a child and grew up. I grew up in this church, you guys. So the AME church is really big and influential in my life. And it's really important in this story as well. The very first female millionaire in the United States was a black woman. And this is the story of how I think the copyright law actually came into play. Sarah Breedlove, born on December 23rd, 1867 in Delta, Louisiana. She was born to sharecropper parents, so they had the land. She was picking cotton, and she got tired of that life. She's tired. She's ready to go. So Sarah Breedlove and her sister up and leave, decide they want to go out and make a life for themselves. They end up moving to Illinois. They become launderers and washwomen in the house, and they're working with a whole bunch of people in the community. And this is where Sarah Breedlove became introduced to the AME Church. This is where she began to understand the importance of having that community around her and inspiring her to be a better person. In the course of that, she did. She became better at what she was doing. She started developing ways to be able to become self-sufficient. And in 1904, she decided that she was going to start her own hairline. After all the stress of her working and putting in all that extra work and hustling and bustling, it started to affect her hair. So she decided in 1904 that she was going to come up with a hair product, and it was going to help your hair grow and get you out of that feeling of being worthless because your hair is all, short, and you know how they like to portray black women. We can't grow our hair, okay? Sarah Breedlove was like, no, yes we can. We just go through a lot of shit every day, right? She comes up with this hair product, and she meets a couple of people, and they spark her investment in self, her entrepreneurial spirit, and she jets off to Denver, Colorado. Now, this is where it becomes really important. You guys, I had no idea this happened. So, Sarah Breedlove in 1905 moves to Colorado. She decides, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to take this off. We're going to run with this. She decides that she wants to get married. She gets married to Charles Joseph Walker. Charles Joseph Walker helps her get her idea off the ground, and with $1.25, Charles Walker and his new wife, Sarah Breedlove, start their hair product, and she dubs herself Madam C.J. Walker. Okay, let me tell you something. Go for Denver. Yeah. So, Madam C.J. Walker is the one who started her brand right here on the turf of Colorado. Once Sarah Breedlove, dubbed Madam C.J. Walker, started her product in 1905, married her husband, Charles Joseph Walker. They had their little tiff, decided they're going to call it quits, 1910. She moves to Indianapolis and starts her own business and her own warehouse, Walker Manufacturing. And this is like the broken down story of Madam C.J. Walker. Now, where it becomes important in the copyright law is back in the 1900s. It was shortly after the Civil War. We were about 34 years shy from when the Civil War ended, and when the black folks were starting to come up from the South and see an avenue for themselves as entrepreneurs, and they started making a way and paving a way for themselves. The Great Migration happened during that time as well. That's when people started flooding from the South. They started moving more towards the North, moving more towards the West, getting away from the environment that they were in that was causing them to feel like they weren't worthy enough, that all they could be were slaves. So we got all of these different inventors, all these different artists, all these different musicians, all these different creators. Remember that fight we had? We're still having that fight. All of our creators are starting to bustle and hustle and make themselves known in this world as more than just being slaves. And they did that. Well, in the 1900s, they decided, okay, they are making a name for themselves. They are more than slaves on the plantation. So we need to kind of beef this up a little bit. In our Constitution, in Section 1, Article 8, Section 8, I believe it is, you're going to have your trademark and your copyright laws as applicable to the people in the United States. Well, they didn't have anything after that. They just had, yeah, we're going to make sure that you have credit for all of your artwork and all of your science and knowledge, but there was nothing else to reinforce it. So back in 1909, they decided the copyright law was going to be the best feasible option to make sure that if you did create something, that can be protected. Now, mind you, when I was telling the story, Sarah Breedlove came to Denver, Colorado in 1905, marrying Charles Joseph Walker, and then creating their Walker brand products at that point in time. The copyright law started in 1909, and that's how I believe the copyright law really, really became important. Because, yeah, they had it in the Constitution, but at that time, before the Civil War, we were only 2/3 of a people. So what could we do about anything that we came up with? We weren't even really people, right? So now that we're considered people now, and they had to revise the Constitution and make it applicable as such, now we need to set provisions to be able to protect what we're creating. So that's when it helped in instances like the individuals like Madam C.J. Walker, where they did go out and they did create these businesses and they were entrepreneurs. But if you didn't learn to read and write during that time frame between when the Civil War ended and when all of these things transpired in the early 20th century, between 1900 and 1930, right before the market crash and the World War, right in between that area, like if you didn't establish yourself during that time, you pretty much was just like continuously going downhill, because it's just, you didn't have the foundation or the resources. So it made it near impossible. But for the ones that did, they took advantage of all the things that were in place at that time and moved on. They progressed. They moved on from those areas. So all that to say this, I'm going from one thing to the next, building upon all of my skills and not knowing any or having really good examples of everything that I'm learning to be able to continue on my path. This is pretty much, I'm carving a way out in my own way. So I had to learn all these things on the fly. But had I had the support, had I had the community, those things would have been a lot easier for me. Hence the reason why I'm standing in front of this church, the AME Church, and its signification in Madam C.J. Walker's story. You have to surround yourself with the people that are meant for you, who are going to push you forward, who are going to give you the resources, who are going to encourage you to be the person that you want to be. And sometimes you have to walk away from what you're used to in order to get that. So I'm here after 22 plus years of going away, not on my own account, but going away, learning more about the world, coming back, and then instilling all of that knowledge into whatever, into the environment that wishes to know it. And so that is the story of our very first millionaire, very first Black female millionaire in the United States. And you guys should be proud of that, because women fucking rock.